Madam Speaker, let me begin by commending the Chairman of the House Armed Services Committee, Mr. McKeon, and the Ranking Member, Mr. Smith of Washington, for their hard work on this bill. As has been mentioned, these two gentlemen demonstrate that despite strong differences of opinion in a bipartisan manner, and that is to be commended. Unfortunately, Madam Speaker, the same cannot be said of the Rules Committee, and I strongly oppose this rule. Last night, late at night, the Rules Committee made and ordered several amendments to the defense bill. We have a long list of them here. But many other amendments on important and substantive issues were denied an opportunity for debate. Among those was a bipartisan amendment on Afghanistan, submitted by my Republican colleagues, Congressman Walter Jones and Ron Paul, my Democratic colleague, the ranking member of the And my colleagues need to be clear on this. This is a bill that would mandate that our brave men and women in uniform stay there indefinitely. The Rules Committee also denied Congressman Garamendi's amendment to strike the funding to construct an East Coast Star Wars fantasy base. The defense bill provides $100 million in startup money for the East Coast base, and to bring it into operation by 2015 will require another projected $5 billion. Just last week, Army General Martin Dempsey, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, said the site is not needed. The Pentagon doesn't want it, Mr. Speaker. And I actually think $5 billion is lowballing the cost. A similar base on the West Coast has now cost us upwards of $30 billion. Why shouldn't we have such a debate on an expensive proposal like that? Or is all the Republican talk about cost-cutting and putting our fiscal house in order as big a fantasy as this silly Star Wars proposal? And where are all these extra billions and billions of dollars coming from, Mr. Speaker? Well, we know where it's coming from. We had that debate just last week. It's coming from programs to help hardworking families. It's coming from the safety net that keeps those families from falling into poverty, especially in these hard times. It's coming from programs to make sure seniors and the working poor can at least put food on the table and take their kids to a doctor when they're sick. SNAP, Medicaid, Meals on Wheels, Medicare, health care for women and children, education, infrastructure. In short, it's taken from programs that are the very lifeblood of our cities, states, and our towns. Madam Speaker, this bill costs $642.7 billion. But too many amendments to reduce some of the more outrageous costs in this bill were denied by the Republican Rules Committee. In real terms, defense spending is now more than 20% higher than the average Cold War budget, and double the amount we were spending a decade ago. Madam Speaker, we have, and we will continue to have, the greatest, strongest military in the face of this earth. But at some point, national security means more than throwing billions of dollars at pie-in-the-sky Star Wars programs that will never actually materialize. It means taking care of our own people. It means educating our children. It means an infrastructure that isn't crumbling around us. It means clean air and clean water and a healthcare system that works. It means creating jobs so that our local communities can thrive and our veterans from Iraq and Afghanistan can actually find decent work when they return home. These must be our priorities. Madam Speaker, let me conclude by quoting President Dwight Eisenhower in a speech he made in 1953. And I quote, "Every gun that is made, every warship launched, every rocket fired, signifies in the final sense a theft from those who hunger and are not fed, those who are cold and are not clothed," end quote. His words resonate with us today. Unfortunately, the Republican leadership of this House refuses to heed them. I urge my colleagues, especially those who are concerned about this war in Afghanistan, vote this rule down. This is an unfair rule. It doesn't deserve to go forward. We ought to have a real debate on Afghanistan, and I hope my colleagues on both sides of the aisle will stand with me, and I reserve the balance of my time.